So hi, very good morning to all of you, and good morning Tanya, good morning Bhargavi. So last class I was talking about the Indus Valley civilization, and the only thing that we covered is the important sites of the Indus Valley civilization and also the town planning of the Indus Valley civilization. So some of the historical portions related to the Indus Valley civilization is polity during the Indus Valley civilization, political organization, then society, their religious practices, and also the economic activities we need to talk about. So some of these aspects. Moreover, some of the architectural kind of things or art related thing will not be discussing here, but that part I will be covering over there in the culture when we'll be starting architecture and sculpture chapter. So there I'll be mentioning about though some references would be here, but again there would be reference the detailed explanation would be there in the culture part. So yesterday last topic was the town planning. Now next is the we need to know political organization during IVC. So political organization or polity during IVC. So it's not something which is a very big topic. And since we don't have any written evidence, and moreover, the written things which are there in the Indus Valley civilization, which have we have not we have not been able to decipher that particular pictographic script of the Indus Valley civilization. So political organization, when it comes to the political organization, so it seems like that these all are the inferences which are drawn from the evidences which are available. So looking at the town planning and looking at the structure in the Indus Valley towns, it seems that Indus polity was centralized in nature. How we can say centralized? Because there was the citadel area, which seemed like an administrative area. So it means that those who were the administrators, they are there in the citadel area. A central authority is there. So that is indication of the central authority. So it means that there was a central authority. But the question arises, what type of central authority? So what type of central authority? So on this question, there were many postulations by the people, that by the many historians, in fact. So these historians, so somebody said that priest was the head of the Indus Valley polity. Then somebody said that king was the head. So looking at the evidences, it seems like that group of merchants or rich traders, they were the head of the, or you can say that they were the central authority, but there was no such monarchical system in the Indus Valley civilization. So this can be said that there was no such monarchical system in the Indus Valley civilization, but maybe group of people, group of rich people or group of traders or merchants, they were the central authority. So they were the central authority. Moreover, why we don't say that there was this particular kind of that no monarchy or kingdom, there was no such concept of the standing army. We have not come across any instance or any such evidence where some standing army kind of thing is there. Then, so please write few words about that polity during the Indus Valley civilization. So mention looking at the town planning of IVC, looking at the town planning of IVC, it can be inferred that that Indus Valley it can be inferred that Indus Valley had a central authority, had a central authority. had a central authority, full stop. According to majority of historians, according to majority of historians, it is believed according to majority of historians, it is believed that that Indus towns were ruled by or administered, लिख लो, Indus towns were administered by rich traders and merchants. Rich traders and merchants instead of instead of a monarchy. Instead of a monarchy. Instead of a monarchy. Full stop. After full stop, you write instead of monarchy. We have not come across any instance. We have not come across any instance of standing army in Indus Valley. In Indus Valley. So that's why it's not plausible to comment more on the polity of the Indus Valley civilization, since limited information is available related to the Indus Valley civilization political organization. Then we need to talk about the economic activity during the Indus Valley civilization. So you can mention economic activity as a heading. So listen about the economic activity. As we said in yesterday's class, and as I elaborated also, that surplus of the agriculture was the base of the development of a civilization. Moreover, this surplus of agriculture is the base for the development of the civilization. So agriculture is the most important economic activity. So agriculture would be the most important economic activity, but it is also accompanied by the many such other industrial activities. So agriculture, when it comes to agriculture, so I will be writing down the crops which were grown by these people. Then, so crops which were grown by the Indus Valley people. Apart from the crops, that there were many other type of the industries also in the Indus Valley civilization. So these industries basically, you know that when cotton you are growing, so it means that there would be a textile industry. So this textile industry was very popular, that it was very much there in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Then they had the ornament industry also, whereby Chanudaro was known for the bead making, and this Kalibangan was known for the bangle making. Apart from this, that these people, Indus Valley people, they had trade with far-flung areas. Particularly, I'll be writing those countries, those regions where Indus Valley people were doing the trade. Then, so this trade was done to the countries like Oman, then it was done with the countries like Bahrain, so Mesopotamia. So when the trade with these all countries are happening, so particularly trade to happen with the Oman, you can say that land route can be followed for the Mesopotamia, but what about the Oman? So you will have to go through the sea route. So it means that shipbuilding industry must have been there. Then, so shipbuilding industry, in fact, it was there at various ports of the Indus Valley civilization like Lothal, Alahadino. So these all places, shipbuilding industry were also there. So please write in economic activity, agriculture was the most important economic activity during IVC. Then you write, they they cultivated crops like wheat, cotton, barley, P, sesamum, sesamum, mustard, rye. So these were the some of the popular crops which were grown by them. Cotton. Now listen. So these were the popular crops. Apart from this, listen, this cotton which was there, so the cotton was famously called as the Sindon. Then cotton was popularly, it was mentioned by the foreigners as Sindon. Why it was called as Sindon? Because the one which originated in the Sindhu Valley or Indus Valley. So Sindhu Valley or Indus Valley, that's why it was called as the Sindon. And in fact, cotton was the native crop of the Indian subcontinent. Then, so it is the native crop of the Indian subcontinent, means that first grown over here in Indian subcontinent. Then, so you can write this one, that the outsiders, the outsiders often referred, often referred, outsiders often referred cotton as Sindon. Cotton as Sindon, which means that that the plant which originated, which means the plant which originated in Sindhu Valley. Please write this Sindhu. Later on you can write Indus Valley, but Sindhu, this is how it was known as, in Sindhu Valley. Or in brackets you can write in Indus Valley. In Indus Valley. Then after this you write, the economic activity also included, the economic activity also included bead industry. First you write textile industry at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, bead industry at Chanudaro, then Bangle industry at Kalibangan, and shipbuilding at Lothal, Alahadino, etc. Lothal, Alahadino, etc. Then further you can also mention in the economic activity itself, and this part I'll be elaborating over there in the culture, but we need to mention over here also. For example, that Indus people were also they were also crafty, and there were artisans were there. So these artisans were making pottery, these artisans were making sculptures and different type of sculpture. So basically the artisan industry was also there, means that people were making different kind of art and craft. Then so you write artisanal industry was also well established. Artisanal industry was also well established, whereby artisanal industry was also well established, whereby pottery, different type of sculptures, pottery, comma, different type of sculptures, seals, S-E-A-L, seal. So pottery, different kind of sculptures, seals, etc. were created. Seals, etc. were created. Full stop. Then after this, you mentioned after this seals, they were mentioned. So the countries with which or the areas with which there was a trade relation between the Indus Valley civilization and uh, obviously from that to and fro trade is there from these areas. So these areas particularly. So first let me explain it. One was the Oman, then another was the Sumer. There was one area like Dilmun, then Mesopotamia, and then Magan. So Afghanistan. So these were the areas which are known for having trade relationship with the Indus Valley civilization. And I'll tell you the present day name of this areas also. So you write that in the economic activity itself. So mention Indus Valley people, Indus Valley people established established trade relation with the following areas, established trade relations with the following areas like, so you write Afghanistan, then Mesopotamia, and you know this is a civilization which covered a large part of the Iraq and then the adjoining countries, so Mesopotamia. Then Sumer, so Sumer was the sub part of the Mesopotamia. It was sub part. In fact, that Sumer is the present day capital of the Iraq, Baghdad. Then, so it was a sub part of the Mesopotamia. So Sumer, then Dilmun, and Dilmun is present day Bahrain. So it is present day Bahrain. Then Oman and Magan. So Magan is the Persian Gulf coast. Persian Gulf coast. So with these all areas, Indus Valley people traded. Afghanistan, Mesopotamia, Sumer, Dilmun, Oman, Magan. So this is a little bit about the economic activity during the Indus Valley civilization. Now in economic activity itself, I would like to mention that what all metals were also known to them. Even they were also kind of creating the ornaments with the some semi-precious stones, precious and semi-precious stones. So first you listen that when it comes to the metal, so the knowledge of which all metals were there in the Indus Valley civilization. In fact, this was a question in the recent years, for 3-4 years back, there was a question related to this in the prelims examination. So when it comes to the metal, so Indus Valley people were aware about the copper, they were aware about the tin, they were also aware about the gold and silver. Then, so this knowledge, though the gold and silver was not at all available in the Indus Valley, but it was coming from these all areas like Mesopotamia, it was coming from these all areas to Indus Valley. So they were aware about these metals like gold and silver also. Then, so please write that Indus Valley people had the knowledge of metals like copper, copper, tin, bronze. Bronze is a combination of the copper and tin. So copper, tin, bronze, gold, silver, gold, silver, gold, silver, and gold, silver, and They were also using some semi-precious stones. They were also using some semi-precious stones like some semi-precious stones like amethyst, carnelian, and lapis lazuli. They were also using semi-precious stones like amethyst, carnelian, and lapis lazuli. Then, so these were the things which were known to them. So in the economic activity itself that I have covered this all part. Now let's move to the social organization or the society during the Indus Valley civilization. So society during Indus Valley civilization. Society during Indus Valley civilization. So when it comes to society, listen to me, that when it comes to society, generally that we start discussion on society related to the authority system, that what kind of authority system existed in the society. So when we talk about the modern world in which we are living, so we are living in a patriarchal society, means that in the family, in the society, there is a dominance of the male. Then, so patriarchal system. So here also that kind of debate is required and that kind of discussion is required, that who was the authority in the society and authority in the family at this point of time. Was it a patriarchal system or matriarchal system? So there were huge differences among the historians. It's not me who will be telling you this, that what is my opinion. I have no stake in this one. And I can only convey to you that what has been concluded by the historians then, and that's what we need to read. So there was a huge divide among the historians, that some group, that good chunk of the historians, they called it as a patriarchal system of the society, and then other chunk of the people, they called it matriarchal system of the society. But we will have to go by the evidences, that the kind of evidences which has been found from the Indus Valley civilization. So the evidences suggest that maybe, and not conformly. That's why I'm adding word maybe, and historians have added word maybe. So maybe Indus Valley was a matriarchal society, opposite to the today's world. So it was a matriarchal society. And they have cited many examples, the evidences which I'm quoting. So these evidences were the most abundant image in the Indus Valley civilization was the image of the mother goddess. Each and every town, there are many towns of the Indus Valley civilization, and in fact in almost all the towns of the Indus Valley civilization, they found that historians, excavators, they have found, archaeologists, they have found mother goddess. So looking at this image, they are saying that maybe it was matriarchal system, and they rejected the patriarchal authority system in the society. So please write these few words, then we'll further talk about the society. So you write that as far as the Indus society is concerned, as far as the Indus society is concerned, majority of historians believe majority of historians that believe that it was matriarchal society. Matriarchal, chalo I'll be writing what is spelling of the matriarchal. It was matriarchal society. Matriarchal society means that authority of the female. Then you write, These historians have cited example of mother goddess. These historians have cited example of mother goddess, which is the most abundant image, found from all the Indus towns. So most abundant image found from all the Indus towns. Full stop. It's found from all the Indus towns. Then, so this is one part. Then other part, when you look at the town planning of the Indus Valley civilization. So what we saw over there, that Indus towns, when you look at a sector, so there was a single story house, there was a double story house, and there was a triple story house. Then, so it seems that there was an income inequality in the Indus Valley towns, but there was no such kind of discriminatory system. There was mobilization in the society, means that people can change their status of being a less earning person to a high earning person, means it was an open society where there was no such kind of restriction. If there would have been any restrictions, so the income that different income groups were not living with each other, then so they must not have been living with each other in close vicinity. So though the income inequality was there, but it does not mean that income inequality will lead to the discrimination. So please write that looking at the towns of Indus Valley, it seems that though the income inequality was there, but income inequality was there, but society was not discriminatory in nature. Society is not discriminatory in nature. Society is not discriminatory in nature. Full stop. Society was not discriminatory in nature. It seems that society was open. It seems that society was open and there was mobilization in society. There was mobilization in society. Mobilization in society. Then, so this is the one part of the society, and in society itself comes its practices, cultural practices, then so some other kind of practices. So that one part I need to discuss over here, for example, that what in the society, so social customs, basically not customs, the usages of the articles by the people, that kind of the articles or what all type of cosmetics were used by the Indus Valley people. So in society itself I'm mentioning. So when it comes to the people of the Indus Valley civilization, they were trendy people then, and when I say trendy people means that they were using many such cosmetics and ornaments. So ornaments, they were using necklace, they were using the waistband, they were using the rings then. So they were aware about and they were creating these all kind of ornaments. Moreover, these Indus Valley people, they were also using soap then. So they were also using soap, though we need to know that what kind of soap, so that I'll be writing on the board. Moreover, they were also using kajal. then eyeliners. Then so they were also using kajal or eyeliners, and Indus Valley women were also using lipstick and sindoor. So lipstick and sindoor. So these all kind of things were known to them. We have found from the excavation, that these all things were used by the Indus Valley people. So they were trendy people or they were fashionable people. So you write that Indus Valley people, Indus Valley people, Indus Valley people were quite aware about, were quite aware about their aesthetic look. Were quite aware about their aesthetic look, aesthetic look, aesthetic look, and they used variety of ornaments, and they used variety of ornaments like necklace, like necklace, वेस्ट बैंड, कमरबंद बोलते हो ना हिंदी में, सो वेस्ट बैंड, बैंगल्स, वेस्ट बैंड बैंगल्स, finger rings, etc. Finger rings, etc. Then further you mention finger rings, etc. after full stop, waistband, finger rings, etc. They were also aware about, soap. They were also aware about soap, lipstick, and kajal, eyeliner. So lipstick, kajal and eyeliner. So basically these two were created from one ore. Name of the ore was cinnabar. This is a ore of mercury, Hg. So basically this ore was used, ore of mercury. So this was used for making these all kind of things. Not the kajal, but the first two, soap and lipstick. So cinnabar was the main constituent. Then one more thing about the people of the Indus Valley civilization, that they also used tincture. And what is this tincture? Sindoor also you can write. I just forgot. So soap, lipstick, kajal and sindoor. Then another thing, that Indus Valley people were also aware about the usage of tincture. What is tincture? That whenever you get a cut in hand or any such body part, so what you do? You apply, generally that what you do, that you apply a little bit of antibacterial solution. Then, and what is that antiseptic or antibacterial? You use Dettol, you use Sevlon. So these are kind of antibacterial solutions. So here also that their antibacterial or antiseptic solution, tincture. And before the invention, or I can say that popularization of the Dettol and Sevlon, in all the primary healthcare centers, iodine tinctures used to be there. अभी के भी टाइम पे भी मिल जाएगा तुम्हें when you go to the primary healthcare centers. So these iodine tinctures were there, and these iodine tinctures were used for that healing the wound. So tincture was also known to them. Then so you can mention that for healing the wound, they used tincture. They used tincture. For healing the wound, they used tincture. Done? So now, I hope, not hope, I know that you guys must be realizing that today I'm very low on energy. It's true that today I'm very low on energy. I'm not feeling quite well today. So continuously from last 4-5 days, there is more than 2 classes. That 2 classes regularly it is happening. So I'm feeling like exhausted today. So maybe tomorrow we have morning class. I will not I'll not say that I'll be cancelling your class, but any other batch I would be requesting for the cancellation then. And today also that I'll be, if I will not feel well, so I will be winding up class by 12:30. So please bear with that because uh, I'm sleepy at this point of time. To be true to you, I'm sleepy at this point of time, as if that I will just fall down from the podium. So this is what happens when continuously you are taking the classes, and this is a time I just wanted to share with you guys that this is the time when you know that people are very susceptible to that when moving out, and anybody who is not little bit careful about his health, so you are putting down your mask and then you are becoming ill. So that happens within our team also, that good chunk of people, and there are other reasons because winters have started, and then other factors also responsible for somebody becoming ill. So we need to be extra cautious at this point of time. So that's why it is that's why it is situation is like that these days I do have more number of classes. So कुछ दिन में कम हो जाना चाहिए when everybody gets back to the classes, so it will be comfortable for me. So acha, somebody have asked that you guys have asked about the rice. Yes, you guys have asked a right question. That's why I'm going slow today, that if at all something I have missed, so please point it out so that I will cover that part, because really I'm very sleepy today, and only thing I'm not doing on the camera that I'm not yawning then. So नींद भी तो आनी चाहिए, sleepy हूँ पर नींद नहीं हो रही है. So now this rice kind of thing, I didn't mention it in the original crops of the Indus Valley civilization. So let me mention it. Rice was not cultivated in entire Indus Valley civilization. Then, so rice was no. Your batch I will not cancel since it is the morning batch. Maybe evening batch I will cancel. Then evening batch I will cancel. So mornings are okay. That morning batch I will go with. So your batch I will not cancel. That's what I am saying. So rice, listen to that. Rice was not cultivated all over the Indus Valley civilization. It was cultivated only at Lothal and Rangpur. Then, so isko likh lena. And rice was not the main staple food of the Indus Valley civilization. So in economic activity itself, please write this one, that rice was not main staple food. Rice was not main staple food of Indus Valley civilization. Rice was not staple food of Indus Valley civilization, but it was grown at Lothal and Rangpur only. But it was grown at Lothal and Rangpur only. These two places we have located in the map which I created yesterday. So Lothal and Rangpur somewhere in the Gujarat, and particularly in the Kathiawad area of the Gujarat. So only these places this rice was cultivated, but it was not cultivated in the mainland Indus Valley civilization, which is basically the stretch of the Harappa to Mohenjo-daro. So in fact they were not knowing that they were not cultivating rice. So kabhi bhi ye question aaye in paper. So rice was not the main staple food of the Indus Valley, but it was only grown at Lothal and Rangpur stretch. Then so Lothal and Rangpur stretch. But ek aur sawal sun lo, since you guys have asked this rice kind of thing, and I think yesterday also I mentioned that Lothal and Rangpur were known for the rice. But when the question comes, listen, that when the question comes that where in India for the first time rice was cultivated, so then Lothal and Rangpur would not be the answer. This is the Lothal and Rangpur is the answer when they ask that where in Indus Valley civilization time rice was cultivated, so then you will be quoting Lothal and Rangpur. But when they ask that rice for the very first time where it was cultivated, so that area, and I hope many of you must have studied from that area, It's a place in Allahabad where this famous National Institute of Technology is there, MNIT. So Motilal Nehru Institute of Technology, Nani of Allahabad. So the very first time in India, rice was cultivated in Allahabad. So this you can write as a note if you want. So this you can write as a note that for the first time in India, rice was cultivated in Allahabad region. So that is even before that is somewhere in between Neolithic times. Then so Neolithic times में 3000 से 6000 के बीच में somewhere in between they cultivated rice over there in the closer to the Allahabad. So this is about the society during the Indus Valley civilization. Now there is I will talk about the religious practices during the Indus Valley civilization, and one more thing I will talk about that generally I skip this topic in other batches, but I have realized that students ask this question. So I'll be addressing this part also, burial practices. Burial practices. So are there evidences of millets as well last year as it was introduced? Yes, millets are there. Barley we keep in the millet category right now, but you can write millets as well. So millet were there. Yes, millets were there. Millets are one of the crops that they were found in the mainland Indus Valley civilization. So you can also add millets in the mainland Indus Valley civilization. Okay? So in the jaw of the cattle mark indicate that use of, is it true? So was it the staple? No, it was not a staple food, Preeti, but some places millet was found. Then so some places, that's why the 7 crops which I wrote that were the main staple food. Then otherwise any other information is coming, and it will come by the time that in every year there is some excavation in the Indus Valley civilization area, and then some new evidences are coming to the picture. So these areas that suppose that we found it somewhere in Bhirana in Haryana, so it means that it was not popular in the Harappa area, it was not popular in the Mohenjo-daro or any other established areas of the Indus Valley, but in some pockets of the Indus Valley. So millet were used in the some pocket, but it was not the main staple food. So it was not the main staple food. So now let's talk about the religious practices during IVC. So religious practices. So please mention religious practices during IVC. Religious practices during IVC. So listen that what kind of religious practices were there during the IVC Indus Valley civilization. So we have come across many type of the worship practices at this point of time. I will start first with the Proto-Seva. So, and this evidence we have got it from the seal. So first let me tell you a little bit about the seal. Later on in art and culture also I'll be telling you about the seal. Listen, that seals were small, that they were geometrical shaped object. Then so I'm writing here that seals were geometrical shaped artifact or object also you can say, since it was created by the human beings. So artifact I'm writing. So geometrical shaped object. So you know that geometrical shapes, what all kind of geometrical shapes could be there? It could be square, it could be circular, then so square, circular, rectangular, so any geometrical shape. Then so any geometrical shape. So there were geometrical shaped artifact mainly made from soft river stone, statite. Soft river stone mainly made up from soft river stone statite. Then now the other aspect of this, why before the religious practices I'm mentioning this, because it is important. And what is there on the seal, on the basis of that only, we are going to infer that what all kind of religious practices were there. So these seals were, ये जो लिख रहा हूँ board पे, you also write that seal लिख के, and then you write it was a geometrical shaped artifact mainly made from soft river stone statite. Then it was pictographic in nature. It was pictographic in nature. It was pictographic in nature, meaning that pictorial representation was there. So it was pictographic in nature, means that pictures and symbols were there on these seals. Then, so pictures and symbols. So for this purpose only, I have mentioned seals. So pictures and symbols. Then, so pictures and symbols were there in the seals. Now, so when it comes to some of the example of the seal, so there was one seal which is very popular at this point of time, and name of the seal was Pasupati seal. Name of the seal was Pasupati seal. Today I forgot to bring my iPad, so I'm not able to show you the diagrams today, but tomorrow's class, this Pasupati seal diagram image particularly I'll be showing you. Okay? So this image I'll be showing you tomorrow's class. Today I forgot to bring that particular digital device of mine. So I'll be showing you this image also. So Pasupati seal, basically what was this Pasupati seal all about? That in this seal you will find that in the image what is depicted. So there is a person. This person has this kind of 3 horns then, and this person is sitting in a yogic posture. So he is sitting in a yogic posture. Yogic posture, and the person is surrounded by some animals. Then, so the person is surrounded by some animals. Then, so from all the sides some animals are surrounding him. Then, so 3-4 animals are there which are surrounding him. So this is the Pasupati seal. Now, what was the what inference was drawn on this Pasupati seal? That it is believed that, as by the historians, that this is an image of the Proto Shiva. Then, so image of the Proto Shiva. Proto means that very primitive version of the Lord Shiva. And why they are calling this image synonymous to the Lord Shiva? Because that Lord Shiva is the deity of the animals, because that he is always surrounded by the animals. Then, so he is always surrounded by the animals. Moreover, not only surrounded by the animals, he is also sitting in a yogic posture. Then, so a kind of a yogic posture, which is also synonymous with the posture of the Lord Shiva. When you see any such depiction of the Lord Shiva, that he is there on the Kailas Parvat, Kailas mountain, and he is sitting in a yogic posture. So the image looks like an old or very proto image of the Shiva. So they call it Proto Shiva. So this image is a confirmation that they were worshipping the Proto Shiva. Moreover, that there was nature worship also. Nature worship, because with the Lord Shiva, you worship bull of the Lord Shiva, Nandi. And in this diagram, there was a bull also. Then, so there was a bull also. So nature worship is intrinsic part of the Indian society. Then, so it is intrinsic part of the Indian society from the very long time. So in Hinduism itself, you see that not just that all the religions which emerged in India, not only people worship the deities which they are kind of that close to, but apart from, they worship all the nature elements. For example, you worship sun, you worship very, I think Guru Parab was there on the day of the Guru Purnima. Purnima is that full moon. So for full moon, so you worship moon also, you worship sun also, you worship people, tree also, you worship so many other things also, bull also. So Indian system of the religion, it always incorporates the worship of the deities and also worship of the elements of the nature. So that is very much confirmed here that Indus Valley people not only worshipped the male deity like Protoseva, but also nature worship was there. One more example I'll give you over here, that Indus Valley, there was one more type of the seal. Let me create it over here. One more type of the seal which was found from the Indus Valley civilization. And what they created in this seal, what kind of image was there? So this type of image was there. And in this image, these type of leaves were created. Then, so these type of leaves were created. And when you closely see that, this type of the leaf, so it seems like a peepal leaf. It seems like a peepal leaf. Then, so peepal leaf or banyan. Then, so peepal leaf or banyan. So in Indian religion, that in India, you worship the peepal tree. So here also that if the representation of the peepal tree is there, so it indicates towards that there is a kind of a nature worship. So please write this instance. So I hope that this much you have written. Then you write one of the very famous example of, not of, one of the very famous example is Pasupati seal. Example is the Pasupati seal, in which a deity has been depicted, a deity, Protoseva, a deity, D-E-I-T-Y, deity, Protoseva, Proto, P-R-O-T-O, Protoseva, has been depicted along with many animals, along with many animals. Along with many animals, full stop. Then further you mention, in, after full stop, in one other seal, peepal leaf was depicted. In one other seal, peepal leaf was depicted, which indicates nature worship, which indicates nature worship. Nature worship. Then, and then another thing, now listen. So this is something which we are inferring from the images which were there on the seal. Now, Mother Goddess, which I mentioned earlier during the society. So here also we need to mention that the most abundant image in the Indus Valley civilization was the sculpture of the Mother Goddess. Then, so it means that Indus Valley people were not only worshipping the male god and nature worship, but they were also worshipping the female deities. Then, so female god. So female goddesses. So male and female gods were worshipped, deities were worshipped, and nature worship was there. And one more aspect of the Indus Valley religion is the practice of shamanism. What is shamanism? Let me tell you. Shamanism. So there are also evidences of the shamanism. Basically, the shamanism is a practice related to the spirit worship or belief in the spirit and ghost. Then, so belief in the spirit and ghost. So how we can confirm this one? So by the use of the amulets in the Indus Valley civilization. So amulets were used. And what is amulet? In Hindi, what you call? In Hindi and Urdu, you call it tabiz. Then, so tabiz ka purpose kya hota hai? Tabiz is used for to ward off the evil. So basically, that this belief in the presence of the ghost and the spirits, what we call shamanism. Then, so since Indus Valley people were using amulets, so it indicates that they had this practice of shamanism also. So please write The most abundant religious image, the most abundant religious image in Indus town, in Indus town, was the sculpture of Mother Goddess. Was the sculpture of Mother Goddess. Was the sculpture of Mother Goddess. Moreover, Shamanism, you can write this as spelling Shamanism. Moreover, Shamanism was also practiced. Shamanism was also practiced whereby Indus Valley people were using amulets, amulets, amulets to ward off evil. Indus Valley people were using amulets to ward off evil. भूत को दूर भगाने के लिए. So this is what is about the religious practices of the Indus Valley civilization. So what you can say, Indus Valley people were worshipping male deity, they were worshipping female deity, there was a nature worship and there was a shamanism also. Then so shamanism also. So now come to the last portion. So this is what I was saying, that generally I skip this section in the classes, but students do ask questions. So अब incorporate कर दिया है that I'll be discussing. I generally leave it to your questions only. That when you ask, so then I complete this process. But अभी लिख लो, rather than you will be परेशान about this burial practices. So we need to talk about that last rite practices of the Indus Valley people also. So when the Indus Valley people were dying, so what kind of crematory or burial practices were observed? So it was not uniform when it comes to the burial practices in the Indus Valley civilization. It was not uniform throughout the Indus Valley civilization. In fact, at one place itself, it was not uniform. So suppose that there is a one area, and in that area different people are cremated in different way. So uniformity was not there at this point of time. So listen, that what all kind of burial practices were there. So some places pot burial was there. I will be explaining this also. लिखने के लिए नहीं बोलूँगा, that you just try to understand. So pot burial. Some places pot burial was there. Some places full burial was there. Some places what I will say, that fractional burial was there. Then so listen what one by one, what is this fractional burial or pot burial? So basically that in the fractional burial, listen, fractional burial, what they were doing, that they are leaving the dead body at one place, and when the dead body is fed by the birds and then the other animals, scavengers, so when the bones are remaining, so some part of that bone would be buried. Then so that is the fractional burial. In this only, that pot burial. So what is pot burial? That not only these bones are buried, but they are buried in a pot. They are keeping these bones in a pot and burying it. Then what else is there? Not only this pot burial, some places full burial was there, means that full body was buried. Then so full body was buried, that is also. Some places full cremation is happening. Cremation matlab jala dena, so full cremation is happening. So these all kind of practices were there. And moreover, one more very unique aspect in the Indus Valley civilization burials, that at many places, that those bodies, dead bodies which were buried, they were buried along with many of their used articles. Suppose that the kind of ornaments these people must have been wearing, the daily objects that they were using, or the animals which were there with them, domesticated animals, so they were also buried with them. It means that Indus Valley people had some kind of belief in the other world or other worldly things, and they believe that once the person is dying from this world, so when he is going into the other world, so he needs these all articles with him. So that's why they were burying all the articles of that person with him. Not all the places, but in many places of the Indus Valley civilization. So they were burying the things with them. So please write this particular. So burial practices. ऐसे heading लिख लेना, burial practices in IVC. Burial practices. So you write, there was no uniformity in the burial practices. There was no uniformity in the burial practices of Indus Valley civilization. In the burial practices of Indus Valley civilization. Full stop. They followed, let me write it on the board. Fractional burial, pot burial, full cremation, double burial. And what is double burial? Let me explain. These all I explained, but double burial means two bodies are cremated together. Then suppose that husband, wife, then or parent, that one such man and his child. Then so double burial means that two bodies cremated at one place. Double burial, etc. Then etc. After full stop you write, at many places, the daily objects used by the person, were also buried with him or her. Daily objects used by the person were also buried with him. Then you mention buried with him. It seems that Indus Valley people had belief in, other worldly things. And they must have thought that the dead person will be using these all articles at the other place. Will be using these all articles at the other place, means that these articles which are buried with him. So this is what was the burial practices of the Indus Valley civilization. Now the last part of the Indus Valley civilization is the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. So you mentioned decline of the Indus Valley civilization. Decline and disintegration of IVC. Now listen, when it comes to the decline of the Indus Valley civilization, here also there was so much of debate among the historians that what was the main reason of the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. So generally, these historians were divided in two categories. One category was of the view that it was the Aryan invasion which led to the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. But later on, it was proved beyond doubt that Aryans, their arrival itself was somewhere around 1500. And by 1800 BC, Indus Valley completely disappeared. So there is a kind of missing 300 years. Then, or not missing, but there is a gap of the 300 years. So this theory was rejected way too back. Then, so बहुत पहले ही reject हो गई. That Aryan invasion was not possible. Reason of the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. And see that and this believing in that one invasion leading to the complete wipeout of a civilization, it can be believed that people can be killed, a large number of people can be killed, but how come you can believe that they will be destructing, that they will be burying all the civilizational aspect, all the houses, all the everything? So that was little bit foolish on the part of the historians to say like that. But other group of the historians who believed that it was the climatic phenomena which led to the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. So it is the one which is believed by majority of the, not just the historians, but also the people from the scientific community. But here also the debate is regarding which type of climatic calamity. Then, so some people say drought was the one, some people say that it was a flood, then some people say that it was a earthquake, whatever. So nowadays it has been kind of that proved that it is inundation. Inundation means that, what is inundation? For a long period of time, everything is under the water. So inundation or frequent flooding was the one which was responsible for the decline and disintegration of the Indus Valley civilization. So please mention that there was a divisionary debate among the historians. There was a divisionary debate among the historians regarding the decline of Indus Valley civilization. Regarding the decline of Indus Valley civilization. Full stop. Some historians claimed that Aryan invasion was the possible reason. Aryan invasion was the possible reason behind the decline of Indus Valley. Behind the decline of Indus Valley. But this theory was rejected. This theory was rejected. This theory was rejected. Then you write, as per the scientific evidence, it is confirmed as per the scientific evidence, it is confirmed that decline of Indus Valley happened due to inundation and frequent flooding. Inundation and frequent flooding. Inundation and frequent flooding. Full stop. By 1800 BC, Indus Valley civilization Indus Valley civilization completely disappeared from Indian subcontinent. Completely disappeared from Indian subcontinent. So this is all about the Indus Valley civilization. If at all any query of yours is related to Indus Valley civilization, so any good query, please send. So then after that I'll be replying to your queries, but I will be starting right now the dominant phase of the Chalcolithic. Then, so dominant Chalcolithic phase in India, that was 1800 to 1500, and I'll give you a break after that. So then I will start the Vedic age. Then, so please mention Chalcolithic culture. Cattle industry during IVC. So Ada has asked this question, that cattle industry, no, not cattle industry, dairy industry we can say. But yes, cattle were reared at this point of time. Then, so cattle were reared at this point of time, you can say. Then what kind of weights and measures were used? I think that yesterday, Vinita, yesterday I discussed about the weights and measures. Then that though we cannot name them, that what kind of weights and measures were there, that we cannot name them because we need to read their script. But we can say that yesterday I mentioned this, that they were using, when it comes to the weights and measures, so Indus Valley people were aware about two type of the measurement techniques, that is the decimal system and then the binary system. बस इतना ही याद रखना, ठीक है? Because we cannot name it. Then, for example, that in medieval period, there are the names of the measurement tools, like we'll be calling it Gaz, Gaze Sikandari. Then, so these all kind of names are there, Bisava. So these all kind of names are there because it is written. But at that point of time, since nothing is written, and moreover, if it is written, we are not able to decipher it, so we cannot name them. But with the scientific estimation, we can say that they were aware about the decimal and binary system of measurement and weighing the things. Then, so yesterday also I told this thing. So good that you guys asked this thing, that Ada, that your question. So cattle rearing was there. Cattle rearing was there, that they were rearing the cattle. Then, so they were rearing the cattle, and means that dairy is important part of the life. Then, so let's come to the next part, which is the Chalcolithic culture. So Chalcolithic culture. Chalcolithic culture. Now listen, when it comes to the Chalcolithic culture, I need to tell you something not complicated, but you try to understand. In the timeline, what we were writing, listen this very carefully. एक बार timeline की तरफ देख लो. Let's suppose that I'm writing this Neolithic phase. Then I mentioned this part of the Indus Valley civilization. So when I mentioned Indus Valley civilization, listen, that in which all areas of this country, if I draw a smaller diagram of the country, so smaller diagram of the India and Pakistan also. So Indus Valley civilization, if you look at this diagram, I'm not creating the full diagram. So if you look at this diagram, Indus Valley is there in this area only. Then, but there is a rest of the country. Then, so rest of the country. And in Neolithic phase, if you remember, so Neolithic phase we mentioned that human beings, Neolithic societies were there in UP, they were there in Karnataka, they were there in Andhra, they were there in Tamil Nadu, everywhere Neolithic societies are there. So it means that the civilization is in this part, but people are living over here. Then, so now, after this, try to understand, this Chalcolithic which I am mentioning, basically, The meaning of this word chalcolithic is chalco refers to copper and lith refers to stone. So chalco refers to copper and lith refers to stone. So meaning that the phase in which human beings, the culture in which human beings were using copper and stone tools. Then they were also using copper, they were also using stone. So this phase in India, in fact, it is there from the Neolithic times only, that from 3500. So from 3500 itself we can say that human beings started using copper and stone together, then in Neolithic phase only. So Indus Valley on one hand is there, but in the other Indian communities that this kind of chalcolithic culture is going on. When Indus Valley was there in 2600 BC to 1800, so at this point of time there are people who are living over here in this area. So the kind of practices which were followed by them, it is the chalcolithic practices then. So they were the chalcolithic, they were following the chalcolithic culture. And what is the chalcolithic culture? That they are using copper and stone. By 1800 when Indus Valley declined, so this area you can say that for some point of time it became an area which was kind of deserted area, but in this area this chalcolithic was the only thing which was visible, or you can say that this dominant phase of the chalcolithic culture, dominant phase was 1800 to 1500. So chalcolithic word means that when the human beings start using copper and stone together, so then that means chalcolithic culture. But its dominant phase in India was after the decline of the Indus Valley, that is 1800 to 1500. Then, but when it comes on entire period, so entire period will run from the Neolithic and even till the arrival of the Vedic age. Then, so I hope you understood this equation which I tried to explain to you. So you write few words about the chalcolithic culture. It is derived from the word chalco, which means copper. It is derived from the word chalco, which means copper, and lith means stone. Lith means stone. Lith means stone. Then further you mention the chalcolithic culture signifies usage of copper and stone tools, simultaneously. Usage of copper and stone tools simultaneously. Full stop. Though this practice began in the Neolithic phase only, but its dominant phase was between 1800 to 1500 BC. 1800 to 1500 BC. So now the developments which I am going to talk about, that is in between 1800 to 1500, that what all type of the developments were happening in these areas. Then so when it comes to the chalcolithic culture in between 1800 to 1500, so it's a kind of a rural culture. Indus Valley civilization was urban in nature. It was urban in nature, but the chalcolithic culture is rural in nature, and the livelihood of the people in this phase was dependent on agriculture, then cattle rearing, that is dairy industry. So cattle rearing, and then stock raising. Stock raising or stock raising, I hope that animal husbandry, they are the same terms, that cattle rearing, animal husbandry or stock raising, they are the same terms. So their life was dependent on agricultural activity and stock raising or cattle rearing, and moreover fishing also. Then so fishing also. So their lives were dependent on these all activities, and they were also producing the textiles. Then so they were also producing the textiles. So you write in between in between in between 18 to 1500 18 to 1500 BC, the lives of Chalcolithic people or the livelihood of Chalcolithic people was dependent on agricultural activity, animal husbandry, stock raising, fishing, etc. Full stop, fishing, etc. They also produced textiles. And some metal craft. Then, now listen. So one of the very unique, this is not a very big topic to be discussed. It's a small topic, but we need to talk about those important developments in this phase. So one of the very important development in this phase as compared to the Indus Valley civilization, the development of the uniform practice of the burial. So this is one big development, that in Indus Valley civilization there was no uniform practice of the burial, but from here onwards they developed uniform practice of burial, whereby not only they were completely burying the body, but at the same point of time these bodies were buried in a one particular direction, and this direction was the north to south generally. That in majority of the areas it was north through south. So the universal or uniform practice of the burial developed. Moreover, the direction sense was also followed in the burial practices. So you're right, one of the very important development in this phase was uniform practice of dead burial. Uniform practice of dead burial, and moreover, they also followed and moreover they also followed direction north south while burying their dead at majority of the places. Some places it was east-west also, but majority of the places it was north-south. You can say that near about 90% of the places it was north-south. Then, so it was north-south. So means that this practice which we even follow till this date today, so that practice we can say that emanating from the Chalcolithic phase, basically the part of the Chalcolithic phase which was between 1500 to 1800. Then another aspect of the Chalcolithic culture, that at this point of time the people in between 1500 and 1800, they used the metal which was used in an immense capacity, that was copper. And at this point of time many copper mines were known to the people, or the copper mining areas. For example, there is this Jhunjhunu close to Alwar then and the Khetri mines then. So from these areas, that these two are in the Rajasthan, so these two areas were very famous for the copper mining. There was a place Ahar and Jilund, they were also famous for copper mining. Then so Ahar, Jilund, Khetri and Jhunjhunu, they were the areas which were popular for the copper mining. So you write that copper was the copper was the most widely used metal in this phase, most widely used metal in this phase, which was obtained from Ahar, Gilund and Khetri mines. Ahar, Gilund and Khetri mines. You can also write Jhunjhunu. All of them are in Rajasthan. Ahar, Gilund, Khetri and Jhunjhunu. Then next is that the important pockets of the Chalcolithic culture in between this 18 to 1500. So important pockets, their name I'll be writing. So please write important pockets of Chalcolithic culture. Important pockets of Chalcolithic culture in between 1800 1500. 1800 and 1500. So you write the name of these all places. So Ahar Banas. So this is one pocket or one region. Ahar Banas. It is there in the Rajasthan. Then Kayat in Madhya Pradesh. Then Malwa, MP Gujarat, and then Swalda, in Maharashtra. So these were the important pockets of the Chalcolithic culture in between this 1800 to 1500 BC. So 1800 to 1500 BC. So this is all about the Chalcolithic culture, the discussion on Chalcolithic culture. So I'll give you a break here and then I'll continue with the advent of Aryans in India. Then and also the Vedic age will be starting. So continue with the break. So hi, Eda has asked this question. Is there any trading of IVC people with southern India? Yes, in fact they had the trading activity within India also, that from all the areas they had a little bit of trading activity. For example, that this gold which I mentioned, so it is also possible that gold was coming from the South India. So they did had contacts with the mainland India also. Then, so they did had contact, but outsiders only I mentioned in the trade activities. So let's begin with the advent of Aryans. Advent of Aryans. Advent of Aryans in India. Then so advent of Aryans in Indian subcontinent. So this happened somewhere around 1500. And 1500 basically it is not a kind of complete state or a watertight statement, means that exactly by 1500 it's a approximate. Then so approximate. So advent of Aryans, but first of all we need to understand who were they, from where they came and why they came. Then so these questions need to be addressed, that who were they, from where they came and why they came to India. Then so basically these Aryans, first of all, they were Central Asians. Then, so they were Central Asians. They were Central Asians, and they were Central Asian, they belong to many tribes of Central Asia. So Aryan does not mean a single tribe, but there were many tribes of the Central Asia. So there were many tribes. Then many tribes of Central Asia. For example, when you look at the Central Asia at this point of time, I have read it that dog was the first animal to be. Is it true? Kind of, because Bird's Home, Zolli has asked this question. So Bird's Home was the place in Neolithic phase where one person was buried with her dog, done in Kashmir. So Bird's Home was the place where one person was buried with a dog, and that too in Neolithic phase. So it is to be true that it can be seen as a true experiment that dog was the first animal to be domesticated at this point of time. And in fact, even till today, that it's not the humans who are responsible for domesticating the dog, it's the dog itself. Then that they are, their nature is like so, that they are more loyal than any other human being. They are the prettiest beings on the planet Earth. Then, so, and they can give you love, so much love that not even a human being can give you. So if you just make the opposite of the dog, so that is the god, then so it's a good name. Then it's a good name, and he's in fact a symbol of the hand of the god. So Central Asian, so many tribes. So what I was saying that these Central Asian nations like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, these all are the Central Asian nations. So these nations are created on the basis of the different tribes. So Aryan does not mean one tribe or one type, but majority that all those tribes which were there in the Central Asia, they collectively called as the Aryans. Then, so there were many tribes. Now, so these Central Asians or many tribes of the Central Asia, they started to come to India. They came from the Central Asia. Many a times it is also called as steppes grassland. So Central Asia is also, in geography you'll be reading that which area is called as the steppes, and you will be reading about many type of the grasslands like savanna, steppe, and then you'll be reading about the Arctic, tundra, then Sudan type of climate. So these all things you'll be reading. So when it comes to the steppes grassland, it is the Central Asia. So they came from Central Asia or steppes grassland. Then now these people, why they started to come to India? Then so the reason, so why they started to come to India? So first of all, that their most important wealth was the cattle. Then so their most important wealth was the cattle, and for their cattle, these people were basically nomadic and pastoralist. Nomadic and pastoralist. And since they were pastoralist, why pastoralist? No, because cattle was a very important wealth of theirs, and they were always in search of good pasture land. They were always in search of good pasture land for their cattle. So in this search of the good pasture land, they came to Indian subcontinent. Then so they came to Indian subcontinent. But there is one more question which needs to be addressed. What do we mean by the Aryans? Then, so Aryans, since I said that these people were Central Asians but belong to many tribes, but why they are called as the Aryans? So the Aryan term which is mentioned over here, let me ask this question to you guys. Then please send your answers to me that what do you mean by the Aryan? What does this term Aryan signifies here? What is the meaning of the word Aryan? Then, so what do we mean by the word Aryan? So please send your answers. Let me see that how many of you know correctly that what is this Aryan word? Meaning of this Aryan word. Meanwhile you write, Aryans started to arrive in Indian subcontinent by 1500 BC. By 1500 BC. In Indian subcontinent by 1500 BC. 1500 BC. From Central Asia or steppes grassland. from Central Asia or steppes grassland? From Central Asia or steppes grassland. Full stop. Then further you write steppes grassland. They were nomadic and pastoralist. They were nomadic and pastoralist. They were nomadic and pastoralist. Cattle was cattle was cattle was their very important most important wealth. So I said to you in the beginning of the class itself that I was very sleepy, and even I was feeling pressurized to smile, but with your answers, it is there on my face. So it's very interesting. Let me read this one by one. So Akhil has sent that noble people. Acha, आगे आने दो. You will see that they were noble people or not. Then Kajal has said cultural community. Though you are, I will not say it's little bit right. You are kind of closer, like little bit closer to the answer. Then Rohan has said good and disciplined people. So this is not the meaning of the Aryan, but बढ़िया answer है. देखोगे कितने disciplined थे. So and how good they were there. So tomorrow I'll be talking about their goodness. Then Jabili Jose Ulagati, he has sent God. This is very so how come they are God Aryans? Then Vishal has sent coming from other countries. No, but that's not the meaning of the Aryan. Then Predna has sent this answer. Aryans are a race of humans. So obviously Aryans are a race of humans. That's why we are talking about the human history only. We are not talking about the animal history. So they are humans only. Then Vijay Kumar, your title is very unique, Vijay. I'm not reading it because I never want to read anybody's name in a wrong fashion. But it's very interesting. It seems like that to me that it seems like Bengali Rasagulla. So Vijay, respected. He has sent the answer respected. No, but respect is a very subjective term. Aryan is a community who followed the same religion. Swati has sent. So no, Swati, this is not about the religion. Then Swati again, she has sent that Aryan is a community. Oh, okay, your answer. Then I need to see Mansivar, I need to see another few other answers also. So you can delete the upper answers so that I can see that other things which has been sent by the other all the other people. So it's not visible to me. So 4-5 answers you can delete which I have read. So Aarti has sent this answer superior race. Aman has said warriors, and Sreen has sent Iranian people. None of them is correct, but what Aarti has sent superior race are these Aryans, they considered themselves to be superior. Then, so in that sense it is true that Aryans considered themselves to be superior, but the meaning of the word Aryan is not superior. They considered themselves to be superior, and so finally there is the right answer. So that Pauly Tarun Prakash has sent this answer. Indo-Aryan language speaking people. So Shreen has sent Iranian people that I have read. And Afnan has sent Arya means son. No, Afnan, this is not the answer. So answer has been sent by the Tarun. So Tarun, that they were Indo-Aryan language speaking people. But Indo-Aryan to unke aane ke baad hua. Let me define it clearly. That Aryan was the linguistic community. So meaning of this word Aryan is the linguistic community. It was a linguistic community. Then, so it was a linguistic community. So already I have told you the answers. Then, so Abhishek has sent this answer, tall, handsome, brown eyes. Oh my God. Then Rahman has sent outsiders. Chalo, so answer already I have told you. तो अब मत भेजो, ठीक है? So linguistic community. So they were the linguistic community. Now it does not mean that when I say Aryans were linguistic community, so the notion will go to you that they were speaking just one language. Then so they were speaking just one language. That's not the meaning of the Aryan. So they were speaking the same group of language. Then so they were speaking the Aryan group of language. Then so they were speaking the Aryan group of language. I will define this also. Listen to it very carefully. That what do I mean by the Aryan group of language? I'm not saying that single language, but Aryan group of language. So what is Aryan group of language? Where there is a sound similarity. Where there is a sound similarity. Then so the language which was used by these people, it had a sound similarity. Then so sound similarity. For example, the language like Hindi, then Sanskrit, then also Marathi, Gujarati, Haryanvi, Rajasthani, these all languages, Bhojpuri, they all have sound similarity. These are the different languages, but they all have sound similarity. Punjabi, it has sound similarity. Then, so sound can be easily recognized by you. But when you compare Hindi and Tamil, there is no sound similarity. They will be two different groups. Then, so the language which was used by them had the sound similarity, and that's what we call linguistic community. So Aryan word stands for the linguistic community, and as Aarti sent this answer that they were superior race, they considered themselves to be superior race. Then so they considered themselves to be superior race, but the meaning of this word is the linguistic community. So what you have written, I just forgot what was the last line. Chalo ek bar fir se whatever I was dictating. So I was dictating that they were nomadic and pastoralist people. I think this was the last thing that I dictated. So they were nomadic and pastoralist. Then further you write, their most important wealth was cattle. Their most important wealth was cattle. Their most important wealth was cattle. And for their cattle, they were always in search of, good pasture land. They were always in search of good pasture land. They were always in search of good pasture land. Full stop. And that's how they came to India. Then you can further mention the term Aryan stands for linguistic community. The term Aryan stands for linguistic community they were ancient members of SCO by Himanshu. हाँ, SCO तब भी था, ठीक है? China led organization, Shanghai. So, not ancient members. So, what I was writing, what I was not writing, what I was dictating. So, क्लास में तुम्हारी धुलाई होती है हिमांशु, ठीक है? So now, linguistic community. Term stands for the linguistic community who spoke Aryan group of languages. Who spoke Aryan group of languages. Who spoke Aryan group of languages. Full stop. Then further, after this one. So now listen. Once these people are arriving in India, so obviously that they will have to face the Indian people and they will have to face the indigenous population of India. So when it came to that, how they faced indigenous population of India, and moreover how they defeated this indigenous population of India, So basically these Aryans who came to India at this point of time, they had two advantage. Then one advantage that these people used superior quality of the tools. And these tools were made from the bronze. Then so superior quality bronze tools, though the knowledge of the bronze was there in India from the long time, but the quantity of the bronze implements or tools were very less. Then the problem with the creation of the bronze tools or implements in India was less availability of the tin. Then so less availability of the tin, though the copper was there in good quantity at that point of time, but less availability of the tin. So that's why not a huge amount of the bronze tools were created at this point of time. On the other hand, Aryans were fully equipped with the bronze tools. Then, and not only they had bronze tools, but they had also the defense materials made from the bronze tools. For example, that these Aryans, they were wearing the mail coats and then also the helmets. Then so they were also wearing the mail coats and helmets. And generally whenever you see any such historical movie or a historical fiction movie, so you see that the soldiers or the commanders, they are wearing this kind of mail coats on their body, and then there is a the recent example, if you have seen the Padmavati movie, so then you can see that what kind of cloth they were wearing. Then so that is the mail coat and helmets. This is one advantage. Another advantage, that these people, the Aryans, they were using the horses. Then, and for the first time, horses came to India. Why? That it came with the Aryans. So horses came to India with the Aryans, and these horses which they were using, it provided swiftness to their army. And not only they were using the horses, but they were also using horse-driven chariots. Then so horse-driven chariots which provided swiftness to their army, and they had superior bronze technology, and that's why they were able to defeat the indigenous population of India in the very first phase in the northwest India, and they established themselves in India. Then so they slowly became part and parcel of the Indian society. So you write, and you can change paragraph and then you can mention. Aryans after arriving in India, not after, Aryans were able to defeat Aryans were able to defeat indigenous population. Aryans were able to defeat indigenous population of India, by their usage of superior bronze tools, which included even mail coats and helmets, which included even mail coats and helmets. Mail coats and helmets. Full stop. Moreover, after full stop, moreover, they were using horses and horse-driven chariots. They were using horses and horse-driven chariots, which provided swiftness to their army. Which provided swiftness to their army. Then, so this is about this particular, that how they defeated the indigenous people of India. Now, the very first thing that I need to talk about, that that Aryans when they came to India, so their initial geographical location, then so their initial geographical location, and then also the sources of their historical period, then the sources of their historical period or their history. So let's begin with the next part of the Aryans. So you can mention as a that next paragraph. So you mention initially Aryans were concentrated. Initially Aryans were concentrated in northwest part of the Indian subcontinent. Northwest part of Indian subcontinent. So northwest part of Indian subcontinent, which includes areas like, so I'm writing in this map itself, NWFP, this is Northwest Frontier Province, NWFP, Kashmir, Punjab, both Indian and then Pakistani Punjab, then Haryana. See, these are the modern names which I am writing, just you must know. Otherwise we say northwest part. Then you can also mention Himachal, then Western UP and North Rajasthan. So initially they were concentrated in this area. If we go by the map, so initially they were concentrated in this area. Done? Then further you mention after the geographical location. I hope you have understood this part, that where they were initially located. So right, Aryans after arriving in Indian subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, started to compose Ved, in Sanskrit language. So started to compose Veda in Sanskrit language. Then in the beginning, you know that the first Ved to be composed by the Aryans was the Rig Ved. Then, so Rig Ved was the first Ved to be composed by them. And why I'm using the term compose, I'm not using they started writing the Ved. Then, so I'm using the word they started composing Veda. So they started to compose Ved. Now, composing is that oral compositions were there. Then, so oral compositions were there. And whenever we talk about the Indian history, particularly the Indian ancient history, it was a oral tradition. Then, so it was a oral tradition and oral history. And in the words, in the Sanskrit word itself, the oral tradition or the oral composition is known as Shruti. So initially, this was a Shruti, means that orally. So these Vedas were existing in the oral tradition. Then, लिखा हुआ नहीं था. It was not in a written fashion. So it was only by the 4th century BC that these things started to be written down on the paper. Then, so for a very large chunk of the period, the Indian history was oral only, and it was there in the oral tradition. So for example, that if I'm saying that Rig Ved was the first Ved to be composed, so when it was orally composed, so how the knowledge of the Rigved is going from that it's there from one century to other century. So basically there was this in the Shruti tradition, what was the method of passing the information, passing the oral Shruti from one generation to another, that the people who had the knowledge of these oral compositions, they are transmitting it to the next generation or the pupils. Then they are memorizing these oral shrutis then, and they are remembering these oral shrutis, and in turn they are also giving it to the another generation. Then so it passed on from one generation to another generation in the oral form, and rote memorizations used to be there, that उस टाइम पे लोग बैठ के रटते थे इसको, that what were these particular orally formed compositions. Then so initially this Rigved was created and Rigved was composed, and when we talk about the initial phase of the Aryans in India, so Rigved is the most important source of information about initial Aryans or early Aryans. So you write that what you have written, that after coming to India they started to compose Ved in Sanskrit language. Then further you mention the first Ved to be composed, the first Ved to be composed was Rigved, was Rigved, which was Rigved, which was the most important source of information, or which is the most important source of information about early Aryans, source of information about early Aryans, about early Aryans. Then, so I hope you have understood these all things, but even if at any instance, if you have any confusion, so you can ask your questions. Then, so what I was saying, that this Shruti tradition, so isko bhi likh lo, that initially the Ved was oral composition. Initially the Veda was oral composition, that is Shruti. That is Shruti. And the meaning of the Shruti is that jisko tum sunte ho, that's the meaning. That in Hindi what you say, the one you listen to, that is the meaning of the Shruti. Then so the one you listen to is Shruti. Or हिंदी में क्या बोलोगे, वो जो तुम सुनते हो, that is Shruti. Then so it was a Shruti or oral, created in oral tradition. Now another thing, that since I said that this Rigved is the most important source of information, so Rigved itself has mentioned that where they were located, and moreover in Rigved some geographical things are also mentioned related to this period. For example, that what all rivers were known to the Indus Valley people, and not just the rivers, but also they have mentioned the Himalayas also. And Himalayas, they are not mentioning Himalayas as the Himalaya name, but they mentioned in the beginning Himalaya as the Himavant Parvat. Though the word Himavant is there, Himavant, Jamavant, Parvat. So this is what they mentioned. So Him word is there at least. Then, and Him is the synonymous of the snow in the Sanskrit language. Then so please write that in Rigved, Himalaya mountains are mentioned as Himalaya mountains are mentioned as Himavant Parvat, are mentioned as Himavant Parvat. Then Himavant Parvat, then you write, it also mentions Sapta Sindhu river. It also mentions Sapta Sindhu rivers, which are as follows. Sapta Sindhu rivers, which are as follows. So what is this Sapta Sindhu? The 7 rivers of this land. that the land which was known to the Aryans. Then, so let's write these 7 rivers, that names of these 7 rivers and their original name which is there in the Rig Veda, and then the present day name. So please mention this one. So this Sapta Sindhu rivers, so let me write present day name here, present day name and original name. Or contemporary name of these rivers and the original names which is mentioned in the Rig Veda. So let me mention it one by one. So the most important and very first one would be the Indus. Indus is the present day name and the old name is Sindhu. Old name or the original name Sindhu. Then after Indus, so let's count the tributaries of the Indus. So the first tributary from the top, so after Indus is Jhelum. Then, so Jhelum and the present day, the original name of the Jhelum was Vitasta. Then after Jhelum, Chenab, and original name of Chenab was Askini. Then after Chenab, which river is there? Jhelum, Chenab, then Byas. So Byas river, Ravi first, na? Ravi, and then Byas. So I'm going in a chronological fashion. So first would be the Ravi, and Ravi was known as Parushni. Then comes Byas. And Byas was known as Vipash. Then Satluj, and Satluj at that point of time Sutudri. And so 6 rivers we have written, which is the 7th river of the this Indus Valley, not Indus Valley, Aryan times or Vedic times. So 7th river is the most sacred river of the Indus Valley civilization, and that river was the Saraswati. So nowadays we call it Saraswati, but so here I'm writing Saraswati. But at this point of time this had many names: Nadi Tarana, and Harkavati. So it was called as Nadi Tarana or Harkavati at that point of time. So 2 names I have written, Nadi Tarana or Harkavati, and presently we call it Saraswati, but in the present day, in the present times, Saraswati is no more existing. Then all the other rivers do exist, but Saraswati is no more existing. So these were the Sapta Sindhu rivers of the Vedic age. So present day name and the original name of these all rivers. So this all type of description was there, and these all descriptions you will find in the Rig Veda as far as the early phase of the Vedic period was concerned. So one more topic I will cover in today's class related to the Vedic age. Listen, that this topic, so how we are going to see these Vedic period. Listen, that how we are going to see this Vedic period. As we wrote in the chronology in the very first class, that we'll be looking at the polity during the Vedic age, that early Vedic period and later Vedic period. So if at all we are going to start early Vedic period today, so first I will talk about the economic during early Vedic period, economy during early Vedic period, polity during early Vedic period, society and religion during early Vedic period. So these all headings would be there. So these all headings would be there which we are going to look at in both the periods, early Vedic period and later Vedic period. So let's begin with the first phase of the Vedic period, that is early Vedic period. So you write a heading, early Vedic period. Early Vedic period, and it is approximately 1500 to 1000 BC. So approximately this stretch is considered as the early Vedic period. So I will directly come into the topics, that I will directly start with the topics like economy during early Vedic period. Then, so at least today I'm going to cover this economy during the early Vedic period. So please write this heading. So question is there. Let me see. Samidha has asked this question. So if Vedas were composed by Aryans, then why are they considered part of the Hindu culture or tradition? So Samidha, first we will have to do the DNA fingerprinting of ours. Then we all are the hybrids of the Aryans. So we all are the hybrids of the Aryans. And nobody in India at this point of time, very less number of people in India can be said as that they have the pure genes of the Indians. In fact, over the period 2000 years, no, 1500 if they came to this country, and we are talking this thing after 3500 years. So you know there was so much of intermixing, and and then there is no pure Central Asian gene which you can find in India. If you look at the Indian people, we all are the hybrids of the Central Asian and indigenous population. But this is a very subjective question that you have asked. So I hope you are understanding. And over the period you will understand. It's not just about that to answer this question or this type of the subjective things in just one word or two. It's all about that once we are over with the syllabus, so we'll be understanding the subjectivity. And we will be having a clear picture. So it's a 3500 old thing which we are talking about. So let's move to early Vedic period. So early Vedic period, so what I said to you, that economy during the early Vedic period, I'm going to start with today. So let's look at the economy, or should I start with the polity or economy? Chalo economy hi pehla hoga jo I'll be using. So one more question is there. Aryan spoke, who has sent this question, asked by many students. Okay, Aryan spoke in Aryan group of language, then why did they write in Sanskrit? Again, you guys, okay, so many people have asked this question. So many people have asked, again you need to understand, they were not writing it. First of all, there needs to be a clear demarcation. They were not writing it, they were speaking it. And when the things are created, composed in that language, so it means that composed. मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना, I'm speaking in English. I'm not writing at this point of time in English. When I'll be writing on the board, so then I am writing. I hope you're understanding. Okay? Moreover, when they spoke Aryan group of language, so basically Sanskrit was a Aryan group of language. One of the language, Aryan group of the language which they used in India. So this is there. That Sanskrit is a Aryan group of language which they used in India. That's the answer. Okay? Then Raja Rani has sent this question. So in paper, should I write original name or present day name? No. You will have to write that when you're writing, suppose that when you're writing, when we will talk about one of the very famous battle of the Dasarajan war. So there you write both the names, it's up to you. Parushni or old name you will be writing, but it is this names, this which has been given to you, it's from the perspective of the prelims examination, that in exam, if they ask you that what is the old name of the Ravi, or what was the name of the Ravi mentioned in the Veda. What is the name of the Jhelum mentioned in the Veda? So then you need to remember these all kind of things. In writing answers, you write anything. That doesn't matter. Then, so that doesn't matter. So, so what I was saying, many students have asked. So many students, you understand that Sanskrit was an Aryan group of language, and it was brought by them to this country. So it was brought by them to this country. And moreover, the picture would be further very clear when you will be reading the chapter of the language and literature in art and culture. Then, so वहाँ एक बहुत बड़ा part है, a large chunk of this language debate which is there, language kind of thing is there. You'll be understanding it fully. So give yourself a little bit of time. I know that it's good that some enthusiasm must be there related to that what happened in our history, and that's how we get interested into reading our history. Then, and when we are interested in reading our history, so obviously we'll be retaining the information. So it's good that you guys are enthusiastic, you have the zeal about understanding, or you're anxious about knowing your own history, that how this happened. So it's good. So by the time of that class, you will be understanding fully. Then you will be understanding fully that this language kind of thing, how it got, that how it was coming to India, how it was getting evolved, and moreover, how it influenced the other languages in India. Then, so there is always a give and take relationship, not only between the humans, but also between the many cultural practices of the humans. Then, so let's come back to the early Vedic period. So economy during early Vedic period. So this is the last topic for the day which I'll be covering. So economy during early Vedic period. Now listen. So when it comes to economy during early Vedic period, basically what was the most important wealth of the early Vedic people? So most important wealth of the early Vedic people was the cattle. Most important wealth of the early Vedic people was the cattle, and cattle, its importance is highlighted in the Rigveda with many terms. So I'll be writing those terms, and in fact their meanings also, that what is the meaning of these words, which highlights that cattle was the most important. So please write, cattle was the most important economic wealth. Cattle was the most important economic wealth of early Aryans. Most important economic wealth of early Aryans. Then further you mention, its importance is highlighted through many words. Its importance is highlighted through many words associated with cattle mentioned in Rigveda. So mentioned in Rigveda. So one by one I am writing these words, okay? And then their meanings, but their meanings are closely attached with the cattle. So one by one you write Gop. This is a word which is mentioned in the Rigveda, and what is the meaning of this word? Cow. Gopajanya. Master of cow. Duhitri. Milcher of cow. Milcher of cow. Goduma. The one which germinates. The one which germinates in cow dung. The one which germinates in cow dung. That is Goduma. And basically this is referring to wheat, because wheat germinated in cow dung. Then Goduli. Godhuli, Godhuli, the time when cow returns to its shade. And basically this Godhuli is a Hindi Sanskrit word which is particularly what we say the evening time, the dusk. Then so it is referring to dusk. And how they are referring to dusk? But dusk is the time when cow returns to its shade. Then so Gop, Gopajanya, Duhitri, Godhuma, then Aghanya. Aghanya meaning not to be killed. Not to be killed. Then one more word you mention, Gavisthi. Gavisthi, search for cows. Gavisthi, search for cows. So these are the words which highlights the importance of cattle, and basically that when we talk about the Rig Veda, so it is a highlighting the economic importance of the cattle. Then so economic importance of the cattle. Done. So you understood that cattle were the most important. Then after full stop, I hope you have, chalo, I'll give you 1 minute so that you can write these all things. So I hope you are done with the writing. Then now listen. So cattle was the most important wealth, and these words highlight the importance of the cattle. Moreover, the battles were fought for securing large number of cattle. Even that at this point of time, battles were fought for securing large number of cattle. Then apart from the cattle, what else was the important economic commodity or economic wealth? So agricultural commodities like wheat and barley, they were important agricultural commodity. So wheat, as I have written, wheat was known as Godhuma, and barley was the most important agricultural commodity, which was known as Yava. So please write that even battles were fought for securing large number of cattle. Battles for cattle. Then so for large number of cattle. Securing for large number of cattle. Full stop. Then further you mention large number of cattle. Then after full stop, the other important economic commodity, in this period was barley, known as Yava, and wheat, known as Godhuma. So barley, Yava, and wheat known as Godhuma. Then next part, listen. So barley and wheat, after this barley and wheat. So next is about the tax system. So tax system, so since that these people, they just arrived in India, and at this point of time when they were there in India, so there was no such tax kind of concept. but voluntary contributions were there in the society. So the chief of the community, he was contributed that the other people in the community, they were contributing to the chief of the community in the, and this is voluntary contribution. This voluntary contribution was known as Bali or Bhag. Then, so you write that there was no formal system of taxation. There was no formal system of taxation, but people contributed voluntarily, voluntarily to the chief of community, in the form of, or not in the form, chief of the community, which was known as Bali or Bhag, which was known as Bali or Bhag. Bali or Bhag, which was known as Bali or Bhag. So this is about the economic activity during this period, that economy during the early Vedic period. So next is the polity during this period, and then society, and then also the religious practices. So I'll not be continuing with this. Polity is a little bigger topic, and moreover, as I said to you, that I'll be keeping it short today. So tomorrow I'll be starting with that. Your batch I'm not going to cancel, but evening batch definitely I'll request for cancellation. So tomorrow we'll be starting with the polity during the early Vedic period, and then also the other topics, and we'll also be able to complete the later Vedic period, and hopefully we'll be starting the Mahajanpad age also. So we'll be starting with the Mahajanpad age also. As far as the Buddhism and Jainism is concerned, that religious movement, that is a separate topic. I have made a separate chapter, not made, but this is generally in the art and culture. So we will be reading Buddhism and Jainism in art and culture, not here in the ancient and medieval history. References would be there, historical things related to Buddhism and Jainism would be there. But when it comes to the conceptual things, so that we will be covering in the art and culture. Okay? So till then, thank you to all of you, and thanks for your patience. Meet you tomorrow.